So how do you make EQ clients care about the EQI and doing any of this EQ development work? One of the hard parts about doing so is that if somebody is low in a certain EQ element, if they are underdeveloped or not engaged in a certain EQ element, and one of the ways in which that will manifest itself in the world is they will often convince themselves that it's unimportant. That my impulse control is low, well, that often means that I don't need impulse control. My emotional expression is low. That's not very well developed. Well, I've convinced myself that I don't and shouldn't express myself emotionally out in the world. And so how do you get them to consider another point of view, that this thing that they don't use very often, that this muscle set that they don't activate very frequently is actually important? So the way to do that is not to emphasize the EQ element itself, but actually talk about the transaction, and that idea of the transaction is what's key. When you show up to a conversation, to a relationship, to a group, you're going to be exercising certain EQ elements. And if you're underdeveloped in a certain way, you're making a transaction. You're showing up with a certain set of behaviors that's producing a certain result. If I show up with low emotional expression, then the transaction is I'm withholding parts of myself. I'm not showing you that. And what that buys me, the transaction I'm making, is that people don't feel engaged with me. They don't feel like they really know me or where I'm coming from. There is not as much trust or human connection there. And that comes at a cost. And so am I interested in getting more emotional expression just because I want more emotional expression? Probably not. But am I willing to work on emotional expression because I acknowledge that the cost of my not having it is great? And so realize it generally is not someone's yearning to be complete from an emotional intelligence perspective, but actually it's that the transaction cost of them being the way they are is too high, that actually brings people to the table to say, and even sometimes begrudgingly, that, okay, I need to do this work. How do you get a client to care about their EQ development? Set up the transaction cost that they are actually using and being engaged with now, and help them decide, is that working for them?